Okay, it's live. So, okay. Hmm. Anyways, so I wanted to share you with that. Okay, thing is, uh, I wanted to write something. Let's say I wanted to note down something, and I never would have thought. Like I searched everywhere. My room, uh, and there is my sister's room. I asked my mom. I was actually finding a notebook, a new notebook where I can write something, and there is no notebook, like literally, not even like there are old books, but I actually want a new, like complete new. There is none. Like there used to be a time where there was piles of fresh notebook every year, 10, 20, 30. There are piles of notebooks there we used to buy, and now see, like there is no, like not a single book available. What a time! Like I never thought this type of day would come in my life where I don't have any notebook left. Anyways, so I'll turn off my fan, and now I don't even, what is it called? Anyways, so what is today's date? some pages left, so it's fine, I guess. This book. Oh, so where was I? I was at. Mm, okay, so he come. He was talking about some Brian, and as he put his hand to the. As he put his hand to the doorknob, Winston saw that he had left the diary open on the table. Down with the big brother was written all over in letters, almost big enough to be legible across the room. It was an inconceivable, stupid thing to have done, but he realized, even in his panic, he had not wanted to smudge the creamy paper by shutting the book while the ink was wet. He drew in his breath and opened the door instantly. He one wave of relief. અરે ભાઈ હું કરે ભાઈ આટલું બધું પહેરી રહેલો બહાર જવાનું હું ટોપી વોપી પહેરને ભાઈ સ્વેટર વેટર અરે મેં હું કેમ તું 1984 વાંચું છું હું હા જॉर्ज ઓરવેલ મેં જ પૂછ્યા કરું કે ભાઈ કેવી છે ભાઈ વર્થ ઇટ છે કે નહીં કેમ કે મેં ટ્રાય કર્યા કરું ભાઈ મેં 3 વાર પોતે ટ્રાય કરી જો ને હું બેક ક્યાંથી થયા બેક જ નહીં થાય ભાઈ ક્યાંથી થયા સ્નેપચેટમાં બેક એ આયરું 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 હા 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 આજો ભાઈ મેં ટ્રાય કર્યા કરું ભાઈ ચોથી વાર ચાલુ કરી દી સોચ ભાઈ ચોથી પાંચમી વાર શું કરું ભાઈ યાર મેં વિચાર્યું તું વાંચેલું તો તને પૂછી એમ ડાયરેક્ટ ભાઈ નહીં વાંચી ભાઈ નહીં ભાઈ એવું મને તો ખબર બી નહીં છે હું એમ જ મંગાવી લીધેલી મેં તો ચાલ નહીં ઠીક છે ચાલ ટ્રાય કરું થાય તો કેવા બીજું તો હું ઉભી રે તને ખબર હું તને ખબર હું વાંચેલી હું તું એ ભાઈ અચ્છા રિવ્યુમાં અચ્છા તો બરાબર ઠીક છે ચાલ હમ હમ અરે મેં છે ને એમ જ બ્લિંકિટ પર અવેલેબલ હતી ને આપણે ત્યાં હતા ત્યારે મેં ચોરું ચાલ મંગાવી લે એમ કરીને મંગાવેલી મેં બી ચાલ જોઉં તો ભાઈ ટ્રાય કરું પાછું હું ભાઈ ભાઈ હા હમ એવું સવારે 5 વાગે ઉઠવા પડે ભાઈ હમ તો ભાઈ કાલે 5 વાગે ઉઠ્યું હજુ તો હું કેમ ભાઈ વાંચવા હારું તો જ કઈ થાય મારું એવું જ કરવા પડે ને તો ભાઈ બહુ વાર ટ્રાય કરી ભાઈ એવું જ થયું 5 4 5 પેજ વાંચીને બંધ કરી લાયા કરું એ જ ને ભાઈ એવું છે બરાબર ચાલ ને ભાઈ ટ્રાય કરું પાછું હમ 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 અચ્છા એવું છે ભાઈ હમ બરાબર બરાબર એવું છે ભાઈ અરે મને લાગ્યું એકવાર બોલતો હતો એવું કઈ એટલે મેં તને પૂછ્યું કે ભાઈ એ ટ્રાય કરવા પડે ટોપ 10 ભાઈ ઓલ ટાઈમ હમ અચ્છા એવું છે જલ્દી જ ઉઠવા પડે સવારે ભાઈ સમજી ગયો મેં જલ્દી જ ઉઠવું બરાબર બરાબર એ બી છે ઇન્ટરેસ્ટ 3 વાર જોવા પર લીધું એવું ભાઈ તો ભાઈ એવું છે અરે મેં પાછું 2 3 દિવસ પહેલા છે ને રિતિક રોશન ખબર ને રિતિક રોશન ક્રિસ તેને પોસ્ટ કર્યું ભાઈ ઇન્સ્ટાગ્રામ પર મેં વિચાર્યું એ બી પોસ્ટ કર્યું હા અને બાકી પોતાની બુક પેલું કવર ને પોસ્ટ કરલું સ્ટોરી બી નહીં પોસ્ટ કરલું અકાઉન્ટ પર હા હવે વિચાર્યું ભાઈ હા એવું જ કઈ મેં વિચાર્યું એ બી વાંચ્યા કરે કુછ તો ગડબડ હે એમ કરીને બી ચાલુ કરું ભાઈ બરાબર ઠીક છે ચાલ સારું ચલ ભાઈ As he put his hand to the doorknob, Winston saw that he did. He had left the diary open on the table. Down with Big Brother was written all over it. It was an inconceivable, stupid thing to have done, but he realized even in his panic he had not wanted to smudge the creamy paper by shutting the book while the ink was wet. He drew on his breath and opened the door. Instantly, a warm wave of relief flowed flowed through him. Colorless, crushed looking woman whose fair and lined face was standing outside. Oh, comrade, she began in a teary sort of voice. I have thought. I heard you coming. Do you think you could come across and have a look at our kitchen sink? Got knocked up, and it was Mrs. Parsons, the wife of a neighbor on the same floor. Heard somewhat discontent. We were but with some about 30 but looking much older. One had the impression that there was dust in the creases of her face. Winston followed her down the passage. The amateur repair jobs were almost daily irritation. Victory mansions were old flats, but in 1950 or thereabouts and were falling to pieces. The plaster flaked constantly from ceilings and walls. The pipes burst in every hard frost. The roof leaked whenever there was a snow. AC systems where our heating systems was usually running a half steam when it was not closed down altogether from motives of economy. Repairs except what you could do for yourself had to be by remote committees. The blaster, okay, the roof leaked whenever was it was running off stems when it was not closed down altogether from motives of economy. Repairs except to do for yourself had to be set by remote committees, which was liable to hold up uh, even the mending of a window pane for 2 years. Of course, it's only because Tom isn't home, said Mrs. Parsons heavily. The person's flat was bigger than Winston's and dingy in a different way. Everything had a battered, trampled on look as though the place had just been visited by some large violent animal. Games impediment, hockey sticks, boxing gloves, a burst football, a pair of sweaty shorts turned inside out, lay all over the floor, and on the table there was a litter of dirty dishes and and exercises books. On the walls were scarlet banners of the Youth League and the Spice and a full size posters of Big Brother. There was the usual boiled cabbage smell common to the whole building, but it was shot through by a sharper streak of sweat, which one knew this at the first sniff. Though it was hard to say how was the sweat of some person not present at the which was still issuing from the telescreen. It's the children, said Mrs. Parsons, casting half apprehensive glance at the door. They haven't been out today, and of course she had a habit of breaking off her sentence in the middle. The kitchen sink was full nearly to the brim and filthy greenish water. It smelled worse than ever of cabbage. Winston knelt down and examined the angle joint of the pipe. He hated using his head and he hated bending down, which was always liable to start him coughing. Mrs. Parsons looked on helplessly. Of course, if Tom was home, he'd put it right in a moment, she said. He loves anything like that. He is ever so good with his hands, Tom is. Parsons was Winston's fellow employee at the Ministry of Truth. He was a fetish but active man of paralyzing stupidity, a mass of imbecile enthusiasms. One of these completely unquestioning devoted drudges on warm, more even than on the thought police, the stability of the party depended. At 35, he had just been unwillingly evicted from the youth league, and before graduating into the youth league, he had managed to stay in the spice for a year beyond the statutory age at the ministry. He was employed in some stubborn post for which intelligence was not required, but on the other hand, he was leading figure on the Foods Committee and all the other committees engaged in organizing community hikes, spontaneous demonstrations, saving campaigns, and voluntary activities generally. He would inform you with quiet pride between whiffs of his pipe that he had put in an appearance at the community center every evening for the past 4 hours. An overpowering smell of sweat, a sort of unconscious testimony to the of his lives followed him about wherever he went and even remained behind him after he had gone. Have you got a spanner? Said Winston, fiddling with the nut, said Mrs. Parsons, immediately becoming ever tripped. I don't know, I'm sure, perhaps the children. There was a trembling of boots and another blast on the comet. The children charged into the living room. Mrs. Parsons brought the spanner. Winston let out the water. Winston let out the water and disgustedly removed the clot of human that blocked up the pipe. He cleaned his fingers as best he could in the cold water from the tap and went back onto the other room. Up with your hands, yelled a savage voice. A handsome, tough-looking boy, nine, had popped up from behind the table and was menacing him with a toy automatic pistol. While his small sister, about 2 years younger, made the small gesture with a fragment of wood. Both of them were dressed in the blue shorts, grey shorts, and red neck handkerchiefs, which were the uniform of the spies. Winston raised his hand above his head, but with an uneasy feeling. So vicious was the boy's demeanor that it was not altogether a game. You are a traitor, yelled the boy. You are not criminal. You are Eurasian spy. I'll shoot you. I'll vaporize you. I'll send you to the salt mines. Suddenly they were both leaping around him, shouting traitor and thought criminal. The little girl imitating her brother in every moment. It was somehow slight frightening, like the tumbling of tide cubes, which will soon grow up into a man-eater. There was a sort of calculating ferocity in the boy's eye, a quite evident desire to eat or kick Winston, and the consciousness of being very nearly big enough to do so. It was a good job. It was not a real pistol he was holding, Winston thought. Mrs. Parsons' eyes flitted nervously from Winston to the children and back again in the better light of the living room. Noticed with interest that there actually was dust in the creases of her face. They do get so noisy, she said. They are disappointed because they couldn't go to see the hanging. That's what it is. I'm too busy to take them, and Tom won't be back from work in time. Why can't we go and see the hanging? Roared the boy in his deep voice. Want to see them hanging? Want to see the hanging? ended the little girl still capering ground. Some innocent prisoners guilty of war crimes were not to be hanged in the. I don't get what this. I'm. The thing is, I am now. I actually have an idea like where this book, the story is going. Like now, I actually have an idea because I ordered this book without thinking, without reading the back, or without reading anything online or something I can say. And now I have a little idea what this is going to be about, I guess. They happened about once a month and was a popular spectacle. Children always clamored to be taken to see it. He took his leave of Mrs. Parsons and made for the door. But he had not gone 6 steps down the passage when someone hit the back of his neck an agonizingly painful blow. It was a rod hot wire had been jabbed into him. He spun around just in time to see Mrs. Parsons dragging her son back into the doorway while the boy hit a catapult. Wollstone bellowed. The boys at the door closed on him, but what most struck Winston was the look of helpless fright on the woman's. Back in the flat, he stepped quickly past the telescreen and sat down at the table again. Still rubbing his neck, the music from the telescreen had stopped. Instead of clipped military voice was reading out was a sort of brutal release, description of the armaments of the new floating fortress which had just been anchored between Iceland and the Faroe Islands. With those children, he thought the wretched woman must lead a life of terror. Another yet 2 years, and they would be watching her night and day for symptoms of unorthodoxy. Nearly all children nowadays were horrible. What was the worst of all was that by means of such organizations of the spies, they were uh, systematically turned into ungovernable little savages, and yet this produced in time no tendency whatever to rebel against the discipline of the party. On the contrary, they adored the party and everything connected with it. The songs, the processions, the banners, the hiking, the drilling with dummy rifles, the yelling of slogans, and the worship of Big Brother. It was all sort of glorious game to them. All this ferocity was turned outwards against the enemies of them of the state, against foreigners, traitors, uh, or spot criminals. It was almost normal for people every 30 to be frightened on their own children, and with good reason, for hardly a week passed in which the Times did not carry a paragraph describing how some eavesdropping little sneak child hero was the phrase generally used, had overheard some compromising remark and denounced its parents to the thought police. The sting of the catapult bullet had worn off. He picked up his pen half-heartedly, wondering whether he could find something more to return in the diary. Suddenly, he began thinking of O'Brien again. Years ago, how long was it? 7 years. It must be. He had dreamed that he was walking through a pitch dark room and someone sitting to one side of him had said as he passed, "We shall meet in the place where there is no darkness." It was said very quietly, almost casually, a statement, not a command. He walked on without pausing. What was curious was that at the time in the dream, the word had not made much impression on him. It was only later and by degrees that they had seemed to take on significance. He could not now remember whether it was before or after having the dream that he had seen O'Brien for the first time, nor could he remember when he had first identified the voice and O'Brien's. And at any rate, the identification existed. It was O'Brien who had spoken to him out of the dark. Vincent had never been able to feel sure. Even after this was morning's flash of the eyes, it was still impossible to be sure whether O'Brien was a friend or an enemy, nor did it even seem to matter greatly. There was a link of understanding between them, more important than affection or partnership. "We shall meet in the place where there is no darkness," he had said. Winston did not know what it meant, only that in some way or another it would come through. The voice from the telescope trumpet call clear and beautiful floated into the stagnant air. The voice continued raspingly. "Attention, your attention, please. A news flash at this moment arrived from the Malabar front. Our forces in South India have won a glorious victory. I am authorized to say that the action we are now reporting may well bring the war within measurable distance of its end. Here is the news flash. Bad news coming," thought Winston, and sure enough, following on a glory description of the annihilation of Eurasian army with stupendous figures of killed and prisoners, come the announcement that as from next week the chocolate ration would be reduced from 30 grams to 20. Winston lacked again. The gin was wearing off, leaving a deflated feeling on his skin. Perhaps to celebrate the victory, perhaps to drown the memory of the lost chocolate, he crashed into Oceania. For this for thee, you were supposed to stand to attention. However, in his present position, he was invisible. Oceania, this for thee gave way to lighter music. Winston walked over to the window, keeping his back to the telescreen. The day was still cold and clear. Somewhere far away, a rocket bomb exploded with dull, reverberating roar. About 20 or 30 of them a week were falling on London at present. Down in the street, the wind flapped, the tone posted to and fro, and the word Ingresok fitfully appeared and vanished. Ingresok, the sacred principle of Ingresok. Unspeakable thing, the mutability of the past. It felt as thought we were wandering in the forest on the sea bottom, not in the monstrous world where he himself was the monster. He was alone. The past was there, the future was unimaginable. What certainty had that a single human creature now living was on his side? That way of knowing that the domination of the party would not endure forever, like an answer. The three slogans on the white face of the Ministry of Truth came back to him. War is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength. He took a 25-cent pie out of his pocket and gave to him. The tiny clear glittering the same slogans were inscribed, and on the other face of the coin the head of the feather. Even from the coin the eyes pursued on the coins, on stamps, on the covers of books, on banners, on posters, and on the wrappings of a cigarette packet. Everywhere, always the eyes watching you and the voice enveloping you. Asleep or awake, working or eating, indoors or out of doors, in the bath or in bed, no escape, nothing was your own except the few cubic centimeters inside your skull. The sun had shifted round and the myriad windows of the Ministry of Truth, with the light no longer shining on them, You heart into him. He was a lonely person telling the truth that nobody could ever hear. But so long so he uttered it in some obscure way that the continuity was not broken. It was not by making yourself heard, but by staying sane that you carried on the human heritage. He went back to the table, took his pen and wrote, "To the future or the past, at a time when thought is free, when men are different from one another and do not live alone, to a time when truth exists and what is done cannot be undone, from the age of uniformity, from the age of solitude, from the age of Big Brother, from the age of double thing greetings." He was already dead, he reflected. It seemed to him now, when he had begun to able to formulate his thoughts, that he had taken the decisive step. The consequences of every act are included in the act itself, he wrote. Tough crime does not entail death. Tough crime is death. Now he had recognized himself as a dead man. It became important to stay alive as long as possible. Two fingers of his right hand were intestined. It was exactly the kind of detail that might betray you. Some noising zealot, the ministry, a woman, probably someone like little sandy-haired woman or the dark-haired girl from the fiction department. In the appropriate quarter, he went to the bathroom and carefully scrubbed the ink away with gritty dark brown soap, which marked your skin like sandpaper and was therefore well adapted for this purpose. He put the diary away in the drawer. It was quite useless to think of hiding it, but he could at least make sure whether or not its existence had been discovered. A hair laid across the page and was too obvious. With the tip of his finger, he picked up an indentifiable grain of what what is what which which dust and deposited in on the corner of the cover, where it was bound to be shaken off if the book was moved. All right, I'm going to stop here. Yeah, I seem to understand where the story goes. I think because I have talked to a friend, so I'll try to continue again tomorrow. Not, I'm not making. I'm not trying to make tomorrow. I'll try. I'll try to do it. Okay. All right. So that's it for today. And I think I'll go to sleep then because I just I'll just go to sleep at this point. I mean, like I have a little idea now, a little description. Also, let me again read the back. Like I have read it, but let me see again. Let me just check. Okay, let me just check. Uh, Published in the summer of 1949, George Orwell's 1984 is one of the most definitive texts of modern literature, it says. Set in Oceania, one of the three intercontinental superstates that divided the world among themselves after a global war, Orwell's masterful critique of the political structures of the time works itself out through the story of Winston Smith, man caught in the webs of dystopian future and his clandestine love affair with Julian. Oh, a young woman he meets during the course of his work for the government. As much as it is an entertaining read, it 1984 is also a brilliant and more importantly timeless satirical attack on the social and political structures. Okay, this is the first time I have read this backside of the book. I should definitely have read this before purchasing, but now I really have some idea. Let's say again, I'll try to read it tomorrow. Okay, I'll try. I will definitely try. It says two watching like. Are there two people? I mean, is there someone else also? I mean, uh, can you just type something so that I understand? It's not a glitch or something. And anyways, I am also going to sleep. So Winston was dreaming of his mother. He thought, have been 10 or 11 years old when his mother had disappeared. She was tall, squeezed, and silent. Okay, definitely not reading right now. There is today is the admin abuse. It's in 2 hours. Wait, it's in 2 hours. So 11 to 12, 12 to about after 1 a.m. it will be like so. But I'll be sleeping. So alright, I'll go to sleep. Good night. Bye. And yeah, good night.